So this is my illustrative material for Leviticus. I'm going to use my denominational book of worship and one of these two.
Okay. Yeah.
This is one of the books used for the Mass.
Thank you, Ron.
This is the Roman Catholic ritual book for initiation, just initiation rites. I'm Dr. Todd Johnson, the Brem Chair for Worship Theology and the Arts at Fuller Theological Seminary. My expertise is in worship and Christian rituals, and I'd like to introduce you to the book of Leviticus, which is, in fact, a book of rituals. Leviticus is one of the 5 books of the Pentateuch. It is not history, and there's very little narrative in it at all. It is what we might call an ecclesial book. It is written for the Levites or the priests. Maybe a way to illustrate this is, I'm an ordained pastor in the Evangelical Covenant Church. This is our worship book. It contains all the rituals for our denomination. This is the Roman Catholic book of rites of initiation alone, baptism and confirmation. This is one of the books used in the saying of the Mass in a Roman Catholic Church. So depending on your tradition, you may be a big book, a little book, or no book tradition. So Leviticus may be very cold, lukewarm, or hot to you when you read it. It may have a lot of resonance with your tradition or not. It is, in fact, a lot of detail about the ritual life of Israel that defines the people and their relationship with God through patterns of behavior that reflect the holiness of God, the God who has called them from Egypt and promised them a land to possess of their very own. Exodus ends with Moses setting up a tent of meeting at the base of Mount Sinai almost exactly a year after leaving Egypt. The Sinai narrative begins in Exodus chapter 19 and ends in Numbers chapter 10. The book of Leviticus sits right in between that as a sandwich, if you would. Leviticus is a detailed description of 3 themes: how Israel approaches God as a community and as individuals, how priests function in the community and remain holy, and how the people function in the community and they remain holy. In particular, it calls the entire community of people on this journey, both priests and lay people, from slavery to statehood, to be as holy as the God they serve is holy. You've heard me say the word holy a lot, and that's a major theme in Leviticus. But we might need to unpack that word. We often think of holiness as a state of perfection. A better way to understand holiness in this context is to be set apart. That is, to separate yourself from things that are unclean, unhealthy, immoral, and unjust, in the same way that the God you worship and follow is distinct from all things unclean, unhealthy, immoral, and unjust. A survey of the religious literature at this period of time would show you that not every god fit that description. Some of the literature about gods in the other religions at this time had gods that weren't trustworthy, weren't just, weren't moral. So this sets the Israelites' God apart, and these practices also set them apart. This is a book of how to honor God's set-apartness by practices that embody your own set-apartness. You have a covenant with a God who is awesome but loving. You have a covenant with a God who is consistent, compassionate, and just. For example, in the Pentateuch, there's an admonition to God's people 3 times not to boil a baby goat in its mother's milk. Why would that be so important to repeat 3 times? Because God thought that would be cruel, unkind, lacking compassion. It's that attention to detail, that attention to being compassionate and just, that was to set the people of Israel apart from all other people. It's the little things, not just the big things, that made them holy. So the book of Leviticus is a book, if you would, about those little things that set people apart as God's people. The organization of the book is roughly in two halves. The first half is the rituals of the people, and the second half is the holiness of the people. The first 7 chapters of the book of Leviticus are all descriptions of different types of sacrifices. Chapters 8 and 9 are ordination rites. Chapters 10 through 15 are rites of ritual purity, in particular for the priests. Then chapter 16 is sort of the pivot point or the apex of the book, and this is the details about the Day of Atonement. So all the sacrifices and all the rites of holiness lead up to this one particular day each year, the Day of Atonement. And then the rest of the book moves from that to living as holy people after you've been atoned for. So the rest of the book, chapters 17 through 26, is a holiness code. Once you've been atoned for, how should you live? You live as holy people, with holy practices and holy days. In particular, the Sabbath, but also the Day of Atonement, Pentecost, and others. Chapter 27 ends with some additional directions about rituals, but for the most part, after chapter 16, the entire book is about the repercussions, the holiness of having been atoned for through the sacrifices. This is a testament to the seriousness with which God's people took, first, their unique place in the world. Second, the unique God that called them to be a people. And third, their unique relationship with this God. This is about their call to be set apart, clean, healthy, moral, and just. The gift of being atoned to God, to being at one with God, was a gift. And this is their response. How do we fare in our life and its practices in that sort of seriousness about our relationship with God? We are not called to these historical practices, I would argue, but we are called to that historical faith, the seriousness with which we take our relationship with a living God. The centerpiece, in my opinion, of this book is chapter 16, the Day of Atonement, what our Jewish friends today call Yom Kippur. Beginning with verse 29 in chapter 16, we read, "This shall be a statute to you forever. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall deny yourselves, and shall do no work, neither the citizen nor the alien who resides among you. For on this day atonement will be made for you, to cleanse you from all your sins, and you shall be clean before the Lord. It is a Sabbath of complete rest to you, and you shall deny yourselves. It is a statute forever." And then concluding with verse 34, "This shall be an everlasting statute for you, to make atonement for all the people of Israel once in the year for all their sins." And Moses did as the Lord had commanded him.